Mahmoud Khalil helped organize pro-Palestinian protests on the Columbia campus last year. Khalil is a legal U.S. resident with a green card, and his attorneys are taking new action to push for his release in a legal battle against the White House. We are following this story from all angles with two CBS News reporters live in New York for us. Let's get right to CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano, who is following this breaking news for us about a second arrest in connection to student protests. Lilia, what do we know so far?
So we are learning that there was one student, and this is coming directly from the DHS Secretary, Kristi Noem. She's already made this public. There's one student who she says self-deported, and DHS has released video of her quote-unquote self-deporting using an app provided by CBP and going to Canada. This is a student who is a citizen of India, and the other student, the one who was detained, according to DHS, is a student who is Palestinian from the West Bank, and they're saying that she had a visa, a student visa, that was expired and that she had stayed in the country. Both of these students, DHS is saying, participated in what the administration is calling support of Hamas. We are waiting to learn a little bit more about what those activities that the government is claiming are, but we know that there's one student that the DHS is saying self-deported. The other one was detained. The university interim president also put out a letter to faculty and students late last night saying that DHS agents were here at the university campus searching following a federal judge's signed order to search the campus, and that at that moment it doesn't seem like they arrested anybody. I'm not sure about the details about this second arrest, exactly how it happened. We're getting more information as we go.
Sure. And Lilia, the Trump administration also pulled millions of dollars of federal funding from Columbia University. What demands are they making to that university?
Well, we obtained a letter from the administration last night that was given to the Columbia administration, and it has a list of demands, I have it right here, that include things like banning masks by students who don't have health or religious reasons. And interestingly, as you can see, there's a group of students who, many of them are masked right now, or protesters who are walking right towards the gates. There's going to be protests happening throughout the day today, demanding that Mahmoud Khalil be released, and of course this other student as well. One of the demands is that they ban masks, and that people who wear masks have to show their student ID. Some of the others include what they call enforcing existing disciplinary policies, but there's also some that are asking that the university change their rules for discipline to give power over expulsion and suspension to the office of the president of the university. They're also saying that the university must complete disciplinary proceedings for those students who were participating in the encampments and the occupation of Hamilton Hall, or Hance Hall, which is what the student called it, asking that those students be suspended or terminated. There's also new rules that the government or the administration is asking, having to do with the departments that the studies of Middle East, South Asian, and African studies. There is a series of demands here. I'm trying to find it here. Of course, my phone is a little bit small, but to change to reform the admissions process, to recognize, for students who are parts of groups to reveal what those groups are, to implement rules about how disruptions of education should happen. But there are some where they're demanding that the university suspend the protesters that they have. And of course, the government is looking for the university to cooperate, to provide disciplinary documents to the administration. And this is kind of that point of tension where the university is, or the administration of the university is fighting back. They're also asking that the law enforcement from the university guards, have full law enforcement abilities, meaning that they could potentially arrest students themselves or detain students while law enforcement comes in. But it's a long series of demands that what I've heard from faculty members and students is they're very concerned, because what this would enable is for the administration to directly access areas of the university that are private, that are just part of the institution. And by that, what they mean is not just literal spaces within the university, but also information about the students themselves. We're seeing one of the protests start to form over here, so we're going to continue reporting on what happens throughout the day. There are multiple protests taking place here in Colombia and throughout the city. It's a very dynamic situation, and students are not just now demanding the release of Mahmoud Khalil, but also pushing back against what the administration is trying to do to start negotiating to release those federal funds to the university.
All right, we'll keep an eye on those protests throughout the day. Lilia, Luciano, thank you so much for that report. All right, let's go now to CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez for more on the case of Mahmoud Khalil itself. Camilo, we understand that lawyers for Khalil filed a new petition. What can you tell us about that?
Hi, yes. The lawyers representing Mahmoud Khalil filed an amended complaint last night asking the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York to order Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to immediately release their client, to also find that his detention is in direct conflict with the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and to prohibit the agency from carrying out similar arrests and detentions of other students who are advocating on behalf of Palestinians. Importantly, and I want to just read you a bit of the amended complaint, the lawsuit says that the Trump administration's actions are plainly intended as retaliation and punishment for Mr. Khalil's protected speech and intended to silence, or at the very least restrict and chill, his speech now and in the future. The Trump administration, of course, argues that Mr. Khalil engaged in unknown activities that were deemed to be pro-Hamas. Hamas is, of course, an organization that is deemed to be by the U.S. government as a terrorist group. They have yet to present any evidence that he indeed endorsed that organization. We also should note that the amended complaint asks the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York to set aside the legal determination made by Secretary of State Marco Rubio that is currently underpinning Mr. Khalil's arrest, and that is invoking a little-known and extraordinary provision of U.S. immigration law that allows officials to seek the deportation of non-citizens, including legal permanent residents like Mr. Khalil, on the grounds that their presence here in the U.S. and their activities here threaten the foreign policy of the U.S. So it's a pretty extraordinary, sweeping immigration law that the government here is invoking. The lawyers, importantly, are also asking for this case to be expedited because they say otherwise Mr. Khalil could miss the birth of his child.
Well, Camilo, staying on that theme of immigration, I want to ask you about the Trump administration's renewed push for birthright citizenship restrictions. What's different about the fight on this time around?
Well, just to level set, just hours after taking office again in January, President Trump attempted to essentially reinterpret the long-standing interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, which has long been interpreted to mean that if you are born here to American parents or anyone who is in the country on American soil, you are a U.S. citizen, regardless and irrespective of the immigration status of your parents. But Mr. Trump issued an executive order that would deny birthright citizenship to the children of people who are in the country illegally, unauthorized immigrants, and also temporary visa holders. But federal courts across the country have blocked that on the ground that it is likely to violate the U.S. Constitution. Now the Trump administration, specifically the Justice Department, is asking the Supreme Court to intervene, step in, and narrow or lift these nationwide injunctions that are currently blocking Mr. Trump's directive. We'll see how the Supreme Court will actually rule on this matter, but this is, yes, the latest chapter in this intensifying legal battle on immigration because of the Trump administration's sweeping actions on this issue so far.
All right, CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Thanks so much, Camilo. Thanks for being with us.